Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Alright guys, it is once again the season for the motorcycle breakfast rides in central Pennsylvania. This past weekend, I was able to attend the Ephrata Breakfast Ride. We had fantastic weather, there were lots of great bikes, lots of great people, and I love the Ephrata show because of the wide variety of bikes that you will see at the show. There are groups of sport bikes that ride in together. There are groups of Harleys that ride in together. There are groups of touring bikes that ride in together, as well as the classic bikes and custom bikes, and pretty much everything in between. Going through my highlights of the show, the first bike that we'll look at is the 1993 Kawasaki ZX-11. For many, many years, this was my absolute dream bike. Back in the day, these bikes were king of the quick. In initial testing, when these first came out, they posted a 10.26 second quarter mile at right around 135 miles an hour. Even by today's standards, that is blazingly fast. Not only was the ZX-11 the king of the quick, it was also the fastest production bike for 5 years running, and it posted a top speed right around 175 miles an hour, plus or minus. Even when the Honda CBR 1100XX Blackbird was introduced, it only bested the ZX-11's top speed by 1 or 2 miles an hour, and the Blackbird performance was actually very, very similar to that of the ZX-11. Moving on, in the big bore Kawasaki's that were there was this beautiful Z1 Classic at the show. The Z1 Classic was one of the first fuel-injected Kawasaki's ever produced. It was based on the KZ1000 LTD. It was super cool to see this one at the show. Next up, we have one of my all-time favorites. That is the Kawasaki ZRX-1200R. These bikes were introduced in the late 90s as the ZRX-1100. When they bumped them up to the ZRX-1200, they gave it about 15 horsepower more at the rear wheel, so it was a pretty stout increase in performance. And they're just a fantastic performance retro motorcycle. Up next, there was this 1987 FJ1200 at the show. I personally have a very nice 1986 FJ1200. These bikes had a really long production run, and while the early FJs were considered hardcore sport bikes, as time went on and the sport bikes became more radical, they transitioned into the sport touring segment. Throughout the 80s and into the early 90s, these bikes were king of the quick in the 40 to 80 mile an hour Top Gear roll-on test, and the only bike that I've tested so far that has beat my 1986 FJ1200 is the Hayabusa. Sitting just behind the FJ1200 is this Honda V65 Sabre. I had one of these previously in this same color scheme, and these are just fantastic bikes. They're a little bit on the big side, and so they're kind of perfect for taller riders like myself. They also have that magnificent Honda V4 power plant. These are a liquid-cooled 16-valve V4 motor, and these bikes produce smooth, abundant power with that big V4. Even though the Sabre was marketed as a sport bike, it does feature shaft final drive. Another big bore bike from the early 90s is a Suzuki GSX-1100G. This bike was actually put into the muscle cruiser category, although to me it really doesn't look like a cruiser. It features a retuned version of the air and oil-cooled engine that was introduced in the gsx-r 1100. This big Suzuki also features shaft final drive, and performance-wise, this bike was just a tick slower than the Yamaha VMAX 1200. Next up, we have this early 90s VFR 750. I talked to the owner of this motorcycle. He has owned it from new, and it has 160,000 miles on it, which is just shocking to me, especially given the overall condition of the bike. It looks like a bike that could have less than 10,000 miles on it. A VFR from this generation was one of the first sport bike motorcycles that I rode, and I was really impressed by the smoothness of the motor and by the ease of control of the VFR. It was very, very intuitive to ride, and these are just great bikes. Moving on, there was a Kawasaki W650 at the show. This is a retro Kawasaki that kind of emulates the style of the early Triumph motorcycles. I think these bikes are really neat looking, and I would love to ride one of these if I get the chance. The next bike we'll look at is this absolutely gorgeous Panigale V4R Ducati. This is the 30th anniversary edition of the 916, and everywhere you look on this bike, it is a piece of mechanical artwork. From the carbon fiber wheels to the titanium exhaust and the winglets and the carbon fiber air scoops for the brakes, this thing is just beautiful. Even though these bikes are set up to be much more comfortable on the track than they are on the street, I would still love to ride one of these if I ever get the chance. Here's a 900 Super Sport from the 90s. This one has stain-tuned exhaust on it, and it sounded really nice when it pulled up. And I've always liked the clean styling on this generation of the 900 Super Sports. Here's another Italian sport bike that was at the show. This one is the RSV 1000 by Aprilia. These featured a 60-degree Rotax V-twin in them. I have owned and ridden several of the Aprilias, and these bikes with that engine are just a fantastic combination. Another one of the standout bikes of the mid-90s is this GSX-R 750. I remember when these came out, and they put every other 750 on the trailer as far as performance went. And not only that, they were faster in a straight line than the R1, the CBR 929, and the ZX-9 at the time. Here's another Honda V4 that's really on my radar. I would absolutely love to try one of these out. This is the VFR 1200. These bikes were very expensive when they came out. They produce 160 horsepower at the rear wheel, so they are shockingly fast. They were marketed as a sport touring bike, but they're definitely on the sporty side of the sport touring segment. Even though this bike features shaft final drive, it does have a single-sided rear swing arm, and this one sounded great with that V4 and the Delcovic exhaust. Another cool classic Honda is this 305 Superhawk. This is one of Honda's first motorcycles with sporting intent. I've previously filmed a ride review on one of these bikes on this channel, and you can click the link above to see that video. Alright guys, that wraps up this video for today. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at some of the bikes that were at the Ephrata show. If you ever get a chance to get to the show, it is well worth it, and it's held every first Sunday of the month at the Ephrata Legion in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, and it runs from May through September. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you have ever attended the Ephrata show, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.